Ho ho ho! Silverstone this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. This could be a huge one for Ferrari. A 1-2 possibly on the cards for Sainz and Leclerc. Carlos Sainz won last year. Can he do it again? They've even had new upgrades for Austria, and the upgrades are designed to give them more stability in high-speed bends. And guess what we have at Silverstone? High-speed bends. Peter. Walsh. Okay, so we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, and I'm pumped. I'm trying not to curse anymore on my channels here, guys. You know, I don't curse on my social media, but for some reason I let it rip on my podcast and YouTube here. But I'm gonna try and stop cursing. Okay, it's not good. Very bold boy here, Peter. Telling you, very bold boy. So anyway, guys. What a race last weekend in Austria. Some people thought it was boring. Some people thought it was actually really interesting. Honestly, guys, I thought it was very, very interesting. And even with my reaction from Austria last week, I didn't even talk about the race and the sprint race as much as I should have, because there was so much drama in the background, and I can read between the lines here with a lot of stuff. For instance, Perez. Sergio Perez. This fucking guy. I feel bad for him. I don't even bat for him. Like, I respect and admire Verstappen, so I'm not even having a go off Verstappen here. I'm just calling it the way I see it and the way I know motor racing for 13 years, all my experience, and I'm telling you now, guys, this is a fact. I've been saying it, I sound like a broken record, I know, but Perez has been slowed down. Now, at the start of the year, he was right there. He was winning a couple of podiums, and all of a sudden, he's slowing down, and people are saying he's bottling it under the pressure, and oh, he's this and that, and he can't keep up with Max Verstappen. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. It was funny, I even said it on my social media the other day. And I'm coming from experience, guys, because even in karting, all the way up to Formula 4, Formula 3, 2, possibly Formula 1, possibly when I say Formula 1 is if you get to Formula 1, this shit happens. It doesn't matter what level of racing you're in, they get slowed down. Now, there was a good few questions came up the other day. Somebody said, well, hang on, Peter. Well, if that's the case, why would they be slowing Perez down? Because surely they want to win the Constructors' Championship. Very good point. Very good question. Now, I'll tell you why this is happening. Because they have such a lead that they have a bit of comfort behind them here. Now, why would they take the risk? It sounds pointless, right? And I side with this guy as in, why would you slow down another driver, your number 2 driver? Why in God's name? Because surely, and ladies and gentlemen, I was victim to getting slowed down in my past, okay? I got slowed down, and then it turned the other way. I was the number 1, and the other guy was slowed down sometimes. So it worked both ways, and if anything, I'd be agreeing with this guy more because I'm a driver, I want to win, right? I want the best equipment. Why are you slowing me down? So I understand exactly where people are coming from on this one. The problem is, there's sponsors to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. There's sponsors to deal with. Red Bull, Verstappen. Verstappen is Red Bull. If you think of Red Bull, you think of Max Verstappen, right? So you need that guy right at the top of the field, winning. And I can tell you this, even if you slow down Perez and you keep him in the back midfield, this is a compliment to Max Verstappen. Because Verstappen looks like, oh, he's amazing, he's wonderful. So if anything, it actually helps your sponsors pour more money in, because now what people will think is, oh my God, once in a while, every 10, 20 years, a driver like Verstappen comes along and dominates. Excuse me, guys, sorry. And what they think, the sponsors, holy shit, we better take opportunity of this. This is amazing. This is unbelievable, guys. We might miss this chance. We might never have a Max Verstappen ever again. See, this is the mental thinking here, guys. There's method in the madness here. Now, if Perez is winning all the time, does Verstappen look as good? No. Are you going to sell many more t-shirts? Maybe. But will you sell more Verstappen t-shirts and hats? If he's that special, quote. Of course you will. because he's one of the greatest of all time, and everybody wants to jump on board the GOAT, right? Which he's not the GOAT, okay? Jesus Christ, let's not get carried away here. But I do admire Verstappen. I like him. I rate him. So, like, I'm not having a go off him at all here. But anyway, so yes, guys, Perez has been getting slowed down. They want Max Verstappen to win the championship, get it sewn up, keep Perez in the game here. Right now, even in Austria, he had a second and a third, so he's still got points for the Constructors' Championship. But what they did was, they had him down the back. So in other words, they know their car is so bloody quick that Perez can come from, I think, did he start 15th for the last race? So he can come from 15th to make his way all the way up to second and third, which he did. Now, in the sprint shootout, it was different. But even for the main Grand Prix, he got his way all the way up the grid. Why? Because they're confident in their car. And I'll double up on that confidence. Verstappen had a 23-second lead in the Grand Prix on Sunday, and what does he do? 2 laps from the end, he comes into the pit lane, okay? The pit lane, he wanted to come in, change to soft tyres, and then go back out and try and get the fastest lap. Now, that's a risk that you don't need to fucking take if you're Max Verstappen. Reason why? Because he's got such a huge championship lead that he doesn't need to go for that extra point. There's no need. There's no need. Now, if he was neck and neck with Perez or Hamilton or something at this stage in the championship, well, fuck it, yeah. You definitely go for it, because that 1 point at the end of the day can be everything. But he has no need to be in a position to do this type of thing. So that shows you how much confidence Red Bull have in their car. They can come in 2 laps from the end, piss around, come into the pit lane, risk something happening. In other words, if they take the wheel off the car and then they try and put on the new wheel, sometimes you see it right in the pit lane. The gun gets the tire gun gets fucking jammed, right? Or somebody puts on the wrong fucking tire. Something can happen, go wrong in the pit lane. So he chose to risk that because they're so goddamn confident. Do you see where I'm going here? So where I'm saying with Perez, they're so confident with Verstappen coming in for a pit stop that they even have the confidence in Perez that, hey, we'll slow him down for qualifying and practice, but then we'll give him all the equipment for the race. And guess what Perez did? He finished 3rd in the main Grand Prix and 2nd in the shootout. So he still scored for the Constructors' Championship. And they have a huge lead anyway. This is the confidence we're talking about, guys. I would actually say borderline stupidity confidence at this stage. You don't risk Verstappen coming in at 2 laps from the end. Anyway, so I hope you know what I mean, guys. The other part of it too is, which I think actually the FIA really need to take a look at this, the track limits. Now, guys, when it comes to track limits, I mean, Jesus, you're looking at like, what are they doing? What are they doing with these track limits? You know what they're doing? They're making work for themselves that they don't need to do. What I mean, if you were watching the Austrian Grand Prix, even in practice, if they went over the white line, in other words, the whole car drifted out all the way out of and outside of a bend, and the whole car, all 4 wheels were over the white line, the lap time was disqualified. Okay? It didn't count. And it's the same for qualifying, same for racing. So the problem here is, why don't you just let the cars fucking drift as far as you can? Let them go. Like, I don't understand why the FIA are putting in this ridiculous track limits rule, because you know what happens? They're making a job for themselves by watching out for people going over the line. So all of a sudden, they're so fucking busy in practice, qualifying and race. I mean, even the practice, jeez, what's wrong with them? That there's no need to do it. So they have to, in practice, qualifying and racing, all 3, they've got to be watching every single car, every lap, to make sure that they're staying in those white lines. I mean, that's a lot of work, guys. And I don't know why they're doing it. And here's why. Let the cars rip. Let them go. Because if you let one car go over the line, okay, over the complete white line, then you can let all the other cars go over the white line, so no one driver is gaining an advantage here. Just let them off. Like, why not? And, besides, makes things a little bit more interesting, because if they get too wide, they might go off. But hey, that's up to the driver. That's up to the driver. If I was the FIA, I would throw that stupid fucking track limits rule out the window, and I would never ever look at it again. It's fucking pointless. They're just making work for themselves. They could be focusing on other things. Let the cars drive. Let the cars rip. Let's see what kind of lap times, because nobody gets an advantage over anyone else. Because if one driver goes over the white lines, the rest of them will do it. So they're still in the same field here. Anyway, so what are we going to look at now? Okay, so the points. That's interesting. And just having a look at my notes here now, guys. So let's look at the points from Austria last week, okay? So Verstappen obviously had a dominant win. And we're going to get on to Silverstone, obviously, just a quick recap now on the points, guys. So Verstappen got the points, 26 points. Obviously, he got the fastest lap, which he didn't need to. But look, hey, he got it, so that's okay. Let's have a look. Now, the driver's standings at the moment, oh, Jesus. Verstappen has, in fact, let me just share the screen with you here now, guys and girls. And you can see Verstappen is on 229. Perez 148, Alonso 131. I mean, if Verstappen wasn't in this, it would definitely be a lot more interesting, because you'd have Perez and Alonso with not a huge amount of points difference between them, which would have made it more interesting. I think it's going to be hard now. We're at, or pretty much, I think we're at the halfway mark now, or just under it, or just over it. But Verstappen's got to have some DNFs here. That's did not finish. He's got to have some DNFs. I mean, this is almost 100 points at this stage, which is just an astronomical lead. If Verstappen gets to a stage where he's 100 points, or even better, 101 points ahead of everybody else, that's 4 race wins. He doesn't have to show up for the last 4 fucking races. So hopefully, you know, look, I like Verstappen. I rate him. You know, I don't want him to have any bad luck, but it would just be nice if he had a couple of DNFs, to be honest. You know, not have any crashes. Just a couple of mechanical failures would be really nice at this stage, wouldn't it? Hamilton, he's on 106. Carlos Sainz on 82. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting this weekend for Silverstone. Let's move on to Silverstone. So, I'll keep you on the screen here, guys. So we're looking at last year's results, right? You can see on screen, Carlos Sainz, he got 25 points. He won last year. Perez, 18. Hamilton, 3rd with 16 points. Verstappen, 7th position, so he just had a bit of a nightmare weekend. Carlos Sainz and Red Bull, Ferrari, Leclerc. I think it's going to be interesting. Let's have a look at the circuit here now. So if you're still watching on screen, this is the Silverstone circuit. What I find exciting about this weekend, guys, is we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail now in a while, but the upgrades Ferrari have brought will be well suited, I think, to Silverstone. High-speed track. And Carlos Sainz won last year, so Ferrari bringing an upgrade for high-speed tracks. Now all of a sudden they're going back to the track where they won last year. I think Sainz and Leclerc are going to be right up there this weekend. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I actually think, now some of my predictions have been all over the place, as we know. Excuse me. But I think, yes, we're going to have Red Bulls, Verstappen and Red Bull anyway, definitely, up there, right alongside the Ferraris. Now, let's move it on though, and let's take a look at the, let's see, just going to take you off the screen here now, guys, bear with me. Okay, we'll be able to look at other news. Yeah, okay, so other news. The calendar for 2024 is out, and pretty much the same races like this year. There's one new one. We've got Qatar in November 29th to December 1st at, I don't even know how to pronounce this, you'll have to excuse me, Lusail, Lusail. I've never heard of this track, I don't know. It must be a new track. Now, it could have been a track that they've upgraded or updated. Sometimes they do that where you could have so for instance, a few years ago they raced in Portimao. Now Portimao wouldn't be an F1 track per se, but they did, I suppose you can say, upgrade the track because of coronavirus, etc. So Lusail, it is a new track, it does seem to be, and there's a lot of tracks coming into the Far East now. Obviously all the Arabs joining in and getting all that money in and investing, it's huge. Now, the other news, we'll go back to Ferrari now. Tech Tuesday they call it in Formula 1, and we're looking at the information here now. So, Ferrari brought a new front wing and a floor to improve the aspect of the car. Now, they brought that to Barcelona just before Austria, and I'm forgetting now how many, where all the upgrades are coming from. But anyway, this should definitely help. Now, they've got a combination of a floor and a wing. So that means, guys, that is about your aerodynamics. Now, the Ferrari car does seem to be very, very solid and stable. However, this will be now the one to really, really, truly test if Ferrari do have any legs now going to high-speed tracks, because I think if they do well at Silverstone, they'll also do well at Spa. Spa, very high-speed track. I think it's going to be very interesting. In fact, let me bring up the track here now again for you there, guys. I'll just share the screen with you once again. So you can see here, this is the track, guys, right? And you can see where my mouse is. They, let me see, okay, so we're going back to the high speed. We'll start here, yeah, grand. So, the track is actually upside down, so I'm just getting a bit mixed up here. So you can see from my mouse here, guys, and they come onto the main straight, right? Oh no, actually they've got this all around. What's going on here, guys? Jesus Christ. Anyway, I forget about this. So, you can see corners 11, 12, 13 and 14. Now, this part here and all the way down to 15, guys, this is the most important part of this track. Now, I've raced at Silverstone myself. I know what the track is like. Now, it was before they upgraded the track to the new layout, but this part is still the exact same. So when you come into turn 9 here, okay, you've got to get a real good run into turn 9. It's almost full speed. Now, depending on how the car is, I mean, if one of those Formula 1 cars, guys, if they can take this at full speed, you know they've got one hell of a fucking stable car. And the mechanical grip, the aerodynamic grip is on form. Now, they might lose a little bit of engine speed down the back straight between 14 and 15, but that's okay. So they'll come through here pretty much full speed at turn 9. And this is crucial, guys, because if you get a good run in and you're carrying good speed into turn 9, you keep the car stable through turn 9, and then you're going into the left, right, and if you take this combination here, guys, if you take this well, now this is literally like going into 13. It's a quick lift, or maybe just a dab on the brakes, maybe down one gear, depending on their setup, you see. And there's straight back on the power. It is very high speed. It's really a game changer if you get your car stable through here, because if you get your car stable and you keep the revs up, I mean, this is very, very important. It's about keeping the car smooth, keeping the revs and speed up, so if they get too much grip going through, they might actually scrub off speed coming out of turn 13, okay? And therefore they'll be a little slower going down this back straight. Now, even if it's 1 mile an hour, guys, that they lose when they scrub off speed going through this sequence of bends, even if they lose 1 fucking mile an hour, even a half a mile an hour, it'll affect them going down this back straight, going into 15. Now, this part, you see, has the longest straight. So it's not about necessarily the straight, it's all about, this is the key. If you get 10 to 14, those corners, you get them set up and loaded up, this is where you'll gain a little bit of time. Now, when we say time, you could probably gain 2, maybe 2/10, I would think here. Now, if you can get 2/10 of a gap here, that's like winning the lotto here for the drivers. Now, it's very important to get down that back straight, and even going to turn 15, if you've got a good power going up to 15, and you see where my mouse is here, guys, this is a quick corner too. Now, I think as far as I remember, they just dab the brakes down one gear, or maybe even two, again, depending on their gearing and their handling and their setup. They'll be back on the power, and then they're back all the way up to turn 16. So really, guys, let's look at the map again, right? If you look at turn 7 here, once they exit turn 7, they're pretty much on full throttle all the way from 7 up to 9, through 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, until they get to 16. So it is crucial for them to carry that speed, keep the momentum up from 7 all the way to turn 16. I mean, that's almost half the track right there that you can gain an advantage or keep your advantage if you're that quick. So it really is an exciting track, guys, because you can even see here too, turn 16 is a slow bend. And you can see as well turn 3, 4, 5, well 5, sorry, beg your pardon, 5 isn't, that's just back onto the main straight. But turn 3 and 4, they're tight. So it's such an exciting track, guys. I mean, when I raced there, it's unbelievable high speed track. You gotta have a good car behind you. Excuse me, so I think it's gonna be awesome, guys, to watch this. It really is. Now, prediction time. I'll just turn off the split camera here, guys. Bear with me. So, what do we have this weekend? Okay, it's prediction time. You know, I've got about only maybe 50% of my fucking predictions right this year. But anyway, so if I'm Max Verstappen this weekend, what's my game plan? Well, my game plan is quite easy. Just stick it on pole, get a good start, and just piss off into the distance. First 2 laps, I'm going to have to be careful because the back straight, like we just spoke about, turn 14 all the way up to 15, that's going to be an area where people are going to try and overtake me. But if I get through the first 2 laps without anybody behind getting me, I'm going to feel pretty solid. So really, Verstappen's key this weekend, if, again, now presuming he qualifies it on pole, or just maybe even off pole, his whole race really revolves around the first 2 laps from 14 to 15, because that's where somebody could overtake him and the cars are bundled up together now, and after lap 2 he can start pulling out a lead. Now, of course, look, guys, that's in theory, you know, you never know what's going to happen, but if I'm a racing driver and I know what they're thinking, that's where they're going to be thinking. And of course, they've got to have some good pit stops too, nice and solid, fast, reliable pit stops, and then they're away. Now, if I'm Sergio Perez, I can't even fucking predict this one because Red Bull are just messing around this. I mean, they're slowing them down, they're keeping them quick. Hard to know. It's really hard to know. Now, let's say Sergio Perez gets the equipment from Red Bull this weekend. Let's say, okay? He's got the exact same car as Verstappen. If I'm Perez and I've got a quick qualifying car now, I'm certainly going for pole. There's no doubt about it. If I get it on the front row, that's okay. I'm going to definitely try and I'll be focusing all my energy in getting a rocket start off the line to overshoot Verstappen going into turn 1 so I can take the lead. Or if I can't, it's not the end of the world. I still have 2 laps really. I've got a 2-lap window here to get behind Verstappen, get a slipstream, get a tow, and just dart into the inside of a bend, and hopefully I can take a lead. So really, for Perez's key for this weekend will be getting a lightning start and the first 2 laps. Because even if he does get a lightning start and he gets the lead into the first corner, he'd be like Verstappen then. He'll have to worry about the first two laps. So that's his key this weekend. All right, let's look at we'll look at Ferrari and Aston Martin too, because I think they'll be the main teams up there. Ferrari. Now, like we said, what's going to happen this weekend? Jesus. It really is hard to predict. If I'm Carlos Sainz, I'm obviously going to try and get my win back. Repeat it all over again. Back-to-back victories year after another. I'm going to try and stick it on pole. Obviously. And I think he'd have the same type of plan. I do think, though, Sainz will go for a different pit stop strategy this time. I don't think they'll be as confident as the Red Bulls, like coming in 2 laps from the end, changing tyres and off we go again. I don't think they're going to be that confident. So I think Ferrari will actually go for a one-stop strategy this weekend. I'm going to try and stay out on the track as long as I can and maximize the distance when Red Bull or Mercedes come in or Aston Martin come in to the pit lane. So I think first 2 laps are crucial, like the other drivers, but you've got the safety net. Go the longer distance. I don't think Red Bull are going to go the hard tyres, in other words the longer distance. I think they're going to go medium or soft, probably medium. So that's what Carlos Sainz will be. The key for him, the real key, would be pit stop strategy. Leclerc, I actually think the exact same strategy. There's nothing actually more to repeat on that one. The exact same strategy. Hard tyres on, go as long as we can, and maybe have a shootout with my teammate at the end of the race. So it'll be interesting to see if they do have the legs for this weekend. So here's hoping, because I like Leclerc. I wouldn't be a Carlos Sainz fan, but I like Leclerc. I like to see him do well. I think he's a good, solid driver, so fingers crossed for him. Okay, Aston Martin, Alonso. Wow. Shit. I don't think Alonso's going to have the legs for it this weekend. I don't think so. I think their car is a very well-balanced car. I think it does go very, very well at slow tracks like Monaco. I thought they'd do better in Austria, but not the same as Monaco. So we're going to a complete opposite track this time. We're going to a high-speed track instead of a slow one. I just personally think they just don't have the engine speed available to them, and that's their downfall. So if Alonso could finish in the top 3, it would be a great result, I honestly think, because I do think Ferrari and Red Bull will be faster than the Aston Martins this weekend. However, I love Alonso, so hopefully I'm wrong. Please God, I'm wrong. I think we'll leave it there. So, my predictions. Oh God, I feel like crying when this stuff comes up. My predictions this weekend. I'm going to go with... my prediction this weekend is not because I just want to change things up. I actually think Ferrari could do it this weekend. And I think they'll favour Leclerc. I think I'm going to go for Charles Leclerc for the win. Verstappen second. Carlos Sainz third. So Ferrari, Red Bull, Ferrari. Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz. Interesting. And again, guys, I'm basing that off the fact that they've got the new upgrade. Ferrari do now. And they did win last year. So maybe it will swing in their favour. Anyway, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening. And we'll be back with the reaction from Silverstone. Ta-ra!